Storydepths presents Audiobook of the Curators Series, Book 1, Zephy Awakening by Kennard. You are listening to Episode 11 from Zephy Awakening. Click on the playlist to listen to previous episodes. All rights reserved.
After miles of winding quiet roads, our path eventually merged with busy highway. A sudden influx of cars zipped past us at high speeds. This was stark contrast to the solitude we'd been enjoying. The hum of engines and the blur of modern vehicles caught my attention. I couldn't help but be mesmerized by sleek designs and advanced technology of the cars surrounding us. Lily lounged in the passenger seat. She seemed unfazed by the transition. She glanced at me and noticed my fascination with traffic around us. "Never seen cars like these before, huh?" she remarked, her tone carrying its usual sarcastic edge. "This junk heap is like time machine for you, isn't it?" I grinned, still marveling at cars speeding by. "I guess you could say that. These cars are impressive." Lily leaned back, crossing her arms with smirk. "You know, if you'd sold this ancient relic, we could be cruising in one of those. Better air conditioning, smoother ride. Probably a lot faster too." I chuckled. Her words made more sense than I cared to admit. "You're probably right, Lily. This car's got history, but it's definitely not the most comfortable ride." She raised an eyebrow, surprised by my agreement. "Wow, did you just agree with me? Mark this day in history." I laughed, the sound blending with the roar of highway. "Don't get used to it, but seriously, I've never driven new car. I don't even know how well they handle." Lily's smirk softened into something almost encouraging. "Well, not too late to find out. Maybe once we figure out this whole mess with your powers and those godly beings, we can upgrade. You deserve to know what it's like to drive something with decent air conditioning." I glanced at her, appreciating her perspective. "Yeah, maybe. But for now, this old car's all I've got. It's been reliable. Seen me through a lot." Rex, ever the faithful companion, perked up at the sound of our voices. Its head swiveling between us and the fast-moving cars outside. I reached back to pat his head, reassured by his steady presence. "Besides," I continued, looking back at Lily, "this car's got character. It's a link to past, and right now, that's something I can hold on to." Lily nodded, her sarcasm giving way to understanding. "I get it, but still it wouldn't hurt to think about future too. You never know what's around the corner." I smiled, grateful for her mix of pragmatism and humor. "You're right, maybe someday. For now, let's just keep driving, see where this highway takes us." The conversation about cars had stirred something in Lily. As we cruised down busy highway, her curiosity shifted to more practical concern. "Zephy," she said, turning to me with serious expression, "I hope you have driving license, insurance, and registration for this car." I frowned. Terms unfamiliar to me. "What are those?" Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. Her face quickly turned from surprise to fury. "What? You don't know what a driving license, insurance, or registration are? Are you kidding me?" I shook my head, genuinely puzzled. "No, I've never needed those. I've always been around my town, and this car is really old. Back when I started using it, there probably weren't any registration requirements." Lily's voice rose, her anger bubbling over. "Pull over, now. Get off the highway before we get stopped by the police and you get us into serious trouble." I immediately signaled and carefully guided the car off highway. Took the nearest exit and pulled onto a deserted lane. As soon as the car came to a stop, Lily turned to me, her face a mix of frustration and concern. "Do you realize how dangerous that is?" she shouted, her sarcasm now replaced by genuine worry. "Can't just drive around without license, insurance, or registration. We could have been pulled over at any moment and you'd be in serious trouble." I raised my hands in a gesture of peace, trying to calm her down. "I'm sorry, Lily. I didn't know. I've never had to deal with any of that before." In Kit's hammock, none of this was ever an issue. Lily threw her hands up in exasperation. "Of course, it wasn't an issue in your tiny town. But we're not in Kit's hammock anymore. Out here, you need to follow the rules. Driving without any of those things is illegal. We're lucky we haven't been stopped yet." I nodded, feeling a mix of embarrassment and helplessness. "I get it. I'm sorry. I'll figure it out. What do we do now?" Lily sighed, her anger slowly subsiding into more measured frustration. "First, let's just be thankful we didn't get stopped. Now we need to figure out our next steps. We can't keep driving like this." We sat in silence for a moment, parked in the quiet lane. The hum of highway was now distant background noise. Reality of our situation began to sink in. Rex sensed tension. He sat up and nudged my arm. His eyes were full of concern. I reached back to pet him. I took comfort in his steady presence. Lily took deep breath. Her expression softened. Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, we need to find a place where we can stay low for a while. Somewhere off the grid where we won't attract attention. I nodded, grateful for her quick thinking. That sounds like a good idea. Do you have any suggestions? She thought for a moment. Then her eyes brightened. There's this old campsite my foster family used to take me to. It's secluded and far enough from the highway that no one will bother us. We can stay there while we figure out what to do next. I looked at her. I appreciated her resourcefulness. All right, let's go there. Lead the way. With new plan in place, we started the car again. Set off toward the campsite. Lily guided me through a series of winding roads. Each one took us further from busy highway, deeper into tranquility of the countryside. As we drove, the earlier tension began to ease. Lily's anger had given way to determination. We had to be careful, but we could handle this together. Finally, after what felt like eternity, we arrived at the campsite. It was nestled in a small grove of trees, hidden from main road and surrounded by nature. The quiet was almost overwhelming after the noise of highway. I felt relief wash over me. We parked the car and got out, stretching our legs, taking in the peaceful surroundings. Rex immediately started exploring and sniffing around the campsite with enthusiasm. Lily turned to me, her expression a mix of relief and caution. Okay, we're safe for now, but we need to figure out how to handle this. You can't keep driving without proper papers. We need to come up with a plan. I nodded, feeling grateful for her guidance. Thanks, Lily. I'll follow your lead on this. Whatever we need to do, I'm in. She smiled. Her sarcasm was replaced by a genuine sense of closeness. Good. We'll figure this out together. But for now, let's just take a moment to breathe. We've got a lot to think about. We need to stay sharp. We settled into the quiet of secluded campsite. I couldn't help but notice absence of usual amenities we'd grown accustomed to on road. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows through trees. It became clear we'd need to make the best of what we had. So, Lily began, looking around rustic setting. Are we camping here for the night? We don't have any food. Lily shrugged, seemingly unbothered by situation. Looks like it, but hey, roughing it is part of adventure, right? I smiled and nodded toward car. Well, I've got few snacks in car. Granola bars, some nuts, and a couple of bottles of water. It's not much, but it should get us through night. Lily's face lit up with hint of relief. Better than nothing, I guess. Let's hope Rex isn't too picky. Rex, hearing his name, wagged his tail enthusiastically. He barked as if to say he was ready for anything. I opened car's trunk and rummaged through our meager supplies. After pulling out snacks and water, I set them down on a makeshift picnic area. Flat rock under canopy of trees. We settled in for our impromptu meal. I looked over at Lily. A teasing smile played on my lips. Next time we make a camping plan, let's make sure we have proper food and supplies, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I don't want you to die of hunger out here. There are much better ways to go. Lily snorted. She rolled her eyes but smiled at my attempt at humor. Yeah, well, at least I'll die. You, on the other hand, old man, will just keep going forever, eating granola bars and nuts for eternity. I laughed. I shook my head. Tache, Lily. Tache. But seriously, we should probably think about our next steps. We can't keep doing this forever. She nodded. She took a bite of a granola bar. You're right. We need a better plan. Maybe tomorrow we can head to town, get some real supplies, and figure out this whole driving license and registration thing. Agreed. I was grateful for her practicality. Sounds like a plan, but for now, let's just enjoy this rustic experience. We spent the rest of evening talking and joking. Earlier tension was replaced by a sense of closeness. Despite lack of proper food and basic conditions, there was something comforting about being out in nature, away from complexities of the world. As night fell, sky above filled with stars. Their light filtered through leaves, casting gentle glow over our campsite. Rex curled up beside us, content and calm. Lily and I lay back on soft ground, gazing up at the expanse above. This isn't so bad, Lily said after a while. Her voice was soft and thoughtful. Just being out here away from everything. Kind of peaceful. I nodded, feeling same sense of tranquility. Yeah, it is. Sometimes it's nice to just be. No pressure, no worries, just stars and quiet. For a moment we enjoyed silence. Rustling of leaves and distant calls of nocturnal animals were only sounds at night. It was a rare moment of peace in midst of our uncertain journey. I found myself grateful for. Eventually sleep began to creep in. We settled down for the night, wrapping ourselves in blankets. Using backpacks as makeshift pillows, Rex lay between us, comforting presence in dark. "Good night, Zephy," Lily murmured, or, her voice drowsy. "Good night, Lily," I replied softly. "We will figure this out, one step at a time." Next morning, the forest greeted us with crisp freshness. It was a welcome change from salty coastal air of Kit's hammock. The scent of pine and damp earth was invigorating. For a moment, I felt a rare sense of peace. Living by sea, I had never experienced this kind of tranquility. As we packed up our meager belongings, the reality of our situation quickly returned. We had no license, no registration, no insurance for the car. It was only a matter of time before we attracted unwanted attention. "All right," said, trying to sound confident. I started the car. "Let's hit the road. If the police stop us, I'll just use my powers like I did with the receptionist at the hotel. We'll be fine." Lily, already seated beside me, shot me a look that could melt steel. "Are you serious, Zephy? Want to rely on your powers again? Do you even know how dangerous that is?" I shrugged, feeling a bit overconfident from fresh morning air. The sense of adventure boosted my mood. It worked before. Why not now? It can't just stay hidden forever. Sometimes we need to take risks. Lily folded her arms, her eyes narrowed. Or we could just, avoid breaking the law. Did you ever think of that? I rolled my eyes. I was not in the mood for a lecture. "Lily, if we get stopped, I'll handle it. It's no big deal. Trust me." Her sarcasm was sharp enough to cut through tension. "Oh right. Trust guy who doesn't even know what license is. Brilliant plan, Zephy." I sighed, frustrated by her resistance. "Look, I know it's risky. But what other choice do we have? We can't just stay off the grid forever." Lily shook her head, voice rising. "We could find a way to fix this without using your powers. Maybe even get the right papers. But no, let's just dive headfirst into trouble. Because that's worked out so well for us so far." Rex, sensing growing tension, whimpered from back seat. I glanced back at him, his worried eyes a reminder of stakes involved. I turned to Lily, trying to soften my tone. "Lily, I get it. You don't want to get caught, neither do I. But sometimes we have to take risks to keep moving forward. We can't let fear hold us back." She stared at me for a long moment, her anger slowly giving way to reluctant acceptance. "Fine, but if this goes south, I'm blaming you. And I swear, if we end up in a worse mess because of this..." I cut her off with a grin, trying to lighten the mood. "I'll take full responsibility, and don't worry, I'm pretty sure my powers can handle it." Lily rolled her eyes again, but there was a hint of a smile on her lips. "Just don't turn any cops into dust, okay? That's the last thing we need." I laughed and was relieved to see her sarcasm returning. "Deal. No turning anyone into dust." With a shared sense of apprehension and determination, we pulled out of the campsite. Back onto road. The highway was a distant memory, replaced by winding country roads. These took us deeper into the heart of the forest. The landscape around was both beautiful and intimidating, a reminder of the unpredictable journey we were on. As we drove, the tension began to ease. We joked and teased each other, our sarcasm serving as a shield against the uncertainties we faced. Despite our different perspectives, there was a growing bond between us, a shared understanding that no matter we were in this together. Lily turned to me after, while her voice softer, but still carrying that edge. "You know, Zephy, for someone who claims to be immortal, you sure like to live dangerously." I chuckled, nodding. "Guess I have a thing for adventure. Keeps things interesting." After 2 hours of driving through winding roads and scenic landscapes, we finally saw a sign indicating a big town ahead. My stomach growled in anticipation of a proper breakfast. Lily, ever the pragmatist, seemed relieved at the prospect of real meal too. We pulled into a busy town and found small diner with big window that gave us perfect view of our parked car. The smell of bacon and coffee wafted through the air. We took a seat by the window. Rex lay down by our feet, content and calm. We scanned the menu for our long-awaited breakfast. As we settled into our meal, I noticed a police officer slowly making his way around the car. My heart skipped a beat. He was taking his time, scrutinizing the vintage vehicle more than usual. "Uh-oh," I muttered, my eyes fixed on the officer. Lily looked up from her pancakes, face twisted into worry and irritation. What's wrong?" I nodded toward the window. "That cop, he's been circling our car for a while now. I think he's noticed something's off." Lily's face paled. She dropped her fork. "You've got to be kidding me. Probably checking the registration. I knew this was going to happen." "What are we going to do, Zephy?" I tried to keep my tone light, though I was just as nervous. "Relax, Lily. We'll figure it out. We just need to stay calm." "Calm?" she hissed, her voice rising with each word. "You think I can stay calm? He's going to find out we don't have papers. Then we're screwed. He'll call for backup. I'll be sent straight to feds. We should ditch car and run." I shook my head, refusing to entertain that idea. "We're not ditching the car. It's our only way out of here. Besides, I think I can talk to him. Maybe use a little persuasion." Lily's eyes narrowed. She leaned in closer, her voice a harsh whisper. "Oh, great. Use your powers on him? Because that's worked out so well for us in the past. You know you're really bad at this whole lay low thing." Couldn't help but chuckle, trying to diffuse the tension. I prefer to think of it as being proactive, and hey, it's not like we have a lot of options right now. She glared at me, her sarcasm sharp enough to cut. "Proactive? You're going to get us both arrested. Or worse, how about you try thinking for once? Realize that this isn't a game?" I sighed, knowing she was right, but still determined to handle things my way. "Look, Lily, just trust me on this. I'll go talk to the officer. You stay here. If anything goes wrong, call Lena. She'll know what to do." Lily groaned, burying her face in her hands. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but fine. Just don't get yourself killed or turn him into a frog or something." I laughed, grateful for her reluctant agreement. "I'll do my best to avoid any amphibian transformations." Leaving a few bills on the table to cover our breakfast, I stood up and gave Rex a reassuring pat. "Stay with Lily, okay, buddy?" Rex wagged his tail. He was oblivious to the tension. Lily muttered under her breath, "I can't believe this. I'm trusting my life to a guy who doesn't even know what a license is." I gave her a wink, hoping to lighten the mood. "Hey, it's all part of adventure, right?" With deep breath, I walked out of the diner and approached the officer, who was still examining the car. Sunlight glinted off his badge. I could see suspicion in his eyes as he looked up at me. "Good morning, officer." I tried to sound casual. "Is there a problem?" The officer gave me a measured look. His hand rested on his belt. "Morning? This your car?" "Yes, sir," I replied. I kept my tone friendly. "Is there something wrong?" He frowned. Glancing back at car, he said, "Your registration sticker looks a little off. Mind if I see your license and registration?" I forced a smile. I tried to appear calm. "Sure, just a second." I reached into my pocket. I stalled for time. Had to think fast. Inside the diner, Lily watched with a mixture of fear and frustration. She clutched her phone, ready to call Lena if things went south. "You'd better not screw this up," she muttered. "Can't afford another mess." Back outside, I took a deep breath, hoping for the best. "Look, officer, there might be a misunderstanding. Can we talk for a moment?" The officer raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "Misunderstanding? What kind of misunderstanding?" I concentrated, willing my powers to subtly influence him just as I had done with the receptionist. "I promise it's nothing serious. How about we step over here and discuss it quietly?" The officer hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. "All right. But this better be good." As we moved away from the car, I glanced back at the diner. Lily was watching, her eyes wide with apprehension. I gave her a small nod, hoping to reassure her. Whatever happened next, I was determined to handle it. With a mix of confidence and caution, I prepared to use my powers, hoping to defuse the situation without causing more trouble. The stakes were high, but with a bit of luck and a lot of careful persuasion, we might just get out of this without ending up in handcuffs. Standing in front of the police officer, I tried to summon my powers like I had done before. I focused hard, willing the same persuasive energy to influence him. But as I stared into his eyes, nothing happened. The power that had worked so effortlessly on the receptionist seemed completely out of reach now. The officer's face twisted into frown as he noticed my intense stare. "What's wrong with you?" He snapped, his hand tightening on his belt. "Stop staring at me like that. You're acting like a lunatic." I blinked, startled by his reaction. I'm sorry, officer. I didn't mean to." But it was too late. The officer's patience had worn thin. He took a step back, one hand moving to his radio. "You need to stop right now. I don't know what game you're playing, but it's not gonna work." Inside the diner, Lily's eyes widened in horror. She banged her fist on the table, her face a mix of anger and fear. "Oh, great. Just great. Zephy's really blown it this time." I tried to calm the officer down, raising my hands in placating gesture. "Please, officer, I didn't mean to upset you. Let's just talk about this. There's been misunderstanding." But my words only seemed to make things worse. "Misunderstanding my ass," growled, stepping forward. "You're coming with me. Turn around. Put your hands behind your back." Before I could react, he grabbed my arm and twisted it behind my back. Cold steel of the handcuffs snapped into place. "You're under arrest for suspicious behavior and driving an unregistered vehicle." Panic surged through me. I forced myself to stay calm. Maybe my powers didn't work. I wasn't genuinely angry. I tried to force it. Now it was backfiring spectacularly. As the officer started leading me toward his patrol car, I glanced back at the diner, desperately hoping Lily would understand what to do next. "Lily, call Lena," I shouted, my voice strained with urgency. "Take care of Rex." Lily's face was a mask of fury as she grabbed her phone and quickly dialed Lena's number. "You better hope she picks up Zephy," she muttered, her tone sharp. "Because if she doesn't, we're all screwed." Rex, sensing the tension, started barking. His worried eyes followed me as I was led away. I felt a pang of guilt and fear. I had failed to protect them. Now I was being taken to the police station. As I was pushed into the back of the patrol car, I tried to collect my thoughts. I had to trust that Lily would manage to get help. Lena would know what to do. She always did. The car started moving. I stared out the window. The world passed by in a blur. I had no idea what would happen next. But I had to believe that somehow we would find a way through this mess. Back at diner, Lily held her phone to her ear, pacing frantically. "Come on, Lena, pick up. We need you right now." Her voice wavered with fear and anger, but she didn't let it stop her. Rex stayed close to her side, his tail down. His eyes never left the spot where I had been taken away.
This was episode 11 from the Curators Series, Book 1, Zephy Awakening by Kennard, available only on Storydepths YouTube channel. Click on the playlist to listen to other episodes.